Good evening, everyone. I'd like to reconvene the open session of the Coventry School Committee. I have 7:04. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we could remain standing for a moment of silence as we consider the work before us this evening. And Mr. Levis, if you could notify the public of our emergency exits, please.
Sure. In case of an emergency, there are exits to your rear. You can exit the exit doors and exit the building to your left or to your right.
Thank you. And Mr. Flory, if you could honor us with the reading of the mission statement for Coventry Public Schools.
Yes, I will, Madam Chair. Thank you. The mission of the Coventry Public Schools is to inspire, support, and challenge all students in an inclusive community to be critical thinkers, effective communicators, reflective learners, responsible individuals, and global citizens.
Thank you. And just to inform the public, the school committee met in executive session at around 6 o'clock. We met for about an hour, at which time we discussed our home school requests, the minutes of our executive session of 2/27/2020, contract negotiations, SRP, and contract negotiations for the CTA. There were votes taken in executive session for the homeschooling requests and for the minutes of our executive session. Both of those carried and were unanimous 5-0 votes. That being said, is there a vote to seal the minutes of the executive session?
Madam Chair, I vote that the records of the executive session be kept closed pursuant to sections 42-46-R and 42-46-5.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to approval of our minutes from February 27th. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the open meeting of February 27, 2020 as presented/amended.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to the public agenda for those citizens gathered. The rest of the agenda items on our agenda are open to the public. If the committee needs to take a vote on something and the motion is made, we will allow public comment before we actually call for the vote. That being said, I guess we can move on to agenda item number 6, celebration of Jaya Joyce. So, Mr. Levis.
Yes, I'm very excited tonight to be able to present to you Ms. Jaya Joyce. I know there are several people here that I'm sure have a lot of positive things to say. I actually see Jaya quite often in a class. I still question why you took that class, Jaya, between you and me, but we won't discuss this tonight. But Jaya, for everybody, Jaya was instrumental in developing our unified program, along with many other students. I'm going to read something that was published, and I know it doesn't do justice, and then I'm going to ask Ms. Hoskins, if you don't mind, put you on the spot, if you don't mind saying a few words, and we'll bring Jaya up here in a second. So Jaya Joyce, 18 of Coventry, Rhode Island, a senior at Coventry High School, co-founded a club, the Unified Oakers, at her school that has helped create a culture of acceptance and inclusion, encouraging everyone in her student body to reach out to fellow students who are lonely, isolated, challenged, or bullied. From a young age, I knew what it was like to feel lonely, said Jaya, citing painful childhood experiences, including bullying at school. Though difficult, those experiences gave her a passion for helping others so that no one will ever feel the way I felt in those moments of loneliness. Recognizing that there were many in her school who felt that way, Jay and a couple of friends proposed a program to their principal that they called Unified Oakers Program. To accomplish their goal, they have hosted school-wide assemblies in which students learn about the value of inclusion and pledge to show kindness to those who are different or feel excluded. The club also initiated a bi-monthly social hour for students to make new friends, organized a student alumni basketball game, and established a unified volleyball team made up of students both with and without disabilities. In addition, Jay and her friends raised more than $13,000 for Special Olympics by persuading over 100 students and teachers to take a polar plunge in the ocean in the middle of February. Jay is now working to introduce a program in the elementary and middle schools in her district. So, Jay, if you don't mind, do you mind coming up here and Ms. Hoskins obviously is, I am putting you on the spot, but you put me on the spot earlier, so I figured it's fair. So, I don't know if you could say a few words, because Ms. Hoskins, as everybody hopefully know, an outstanding world language teacher, but more importantly, that really has advocated for every single student. I think we partnered up with Ms. Hoskins, and I mean, the NEAS program, when they came for the visit, you know, since I've been here, and I started before, but that's been one of my goals is obviously every kid, you know, we made that part of our strategic plan. They highlighted just the inclusiveness of our school, and they said, you know, everybody's doing this now in schools, but nobody, they said, like, in some of these very affluent communities, Avon, Connecticut, none of their schools have anything that can compare to the way that Coventry High School accepts all students. And that's transcended because of you down to the middle school, right? With assembly, and then you've gone to the elementary schools. I know you have one coming up that we're going to reschedule. So I've said enough. I brought it up there.
I know. Can we be something to say, Mr. Llewellyn?
Yeah.
She's just amazing. She is inside the classroom, outside the classroom, with all her peers. She's probably the most, and she probably doesn't even know this, the most respected kid at Coventry High School, without a doubt. You know, when we talk about inclusion and acceptance, she lives it. I've had the pleasure of having Jay twice in Spanish 1 honors, and this year in Spanish 2 honors. And she just stands out. Her work, I just read something yesterday she wrote, and I couldn't even find a mistake. She's beautiful inside and out. She's a great role model. Like you said, we've gone to the elementary schools and to the middle school, and I mean, the middle school right now is doing such an amazing job with the plunge, and I really think it's her enthusiasm. It's the 8th graders when they saw her. She just, you know, she doesn't demand it, but the respect of everybody. But it's just so natural. I just can't say enough about her. You know, I told her mom when she got this award, and I'm like, I know we as parents think our kids are great, but she really is an exceptional young lady inside the classroom now. And I've been blessed to have her for 2 years, not only as a student, but also, you know, being part of this. So she's going to do great things.
Can you say a few things about the award and what you experienced, if you have an idea what it's going to be like tentatively in May?
Yeah, so in May I'm supposed to be going to Washington for people for I think 4 days. There's one winner from each state, so all the 50 winners get together. There's also 50 middle school winners as well. I know we have a community service project that we're doing at an elementary school in Washington D.C. There's an award ceremony, and I had the chance of winning one of the national awards.
We're confident.
Yeah. Sure, you can say whatever you want.
This is a young lady, and I'm sure her parents can attest to this.
Bless you.
Bless you. She would have never thought that she was going to be doing what she's doing right now. Just even talking to the school committee, but she's talked to almost every student in Coventry, except 2 elementary schools. And I remember the first time I said to her, "Can you make an announcement?" She said, "No, I can't make an announcement. Oh my God, nobody's going to see you." She was terrified. And now, the way she presents herself is evident right here.
So, congratulations. I know this is kind of lame, right? Yeah. Congratulations. Typically, we have you go and
Yeah, usually you shake our hands, but I'm going to start a new tradition, which is I'm going to stand and I'm going to bow to your accomplishments. So we are so pleased for you and so happy for our community that you're part of it. Before I ask for comments from the rest of the community, did we want to go down the line, Mr. Florio?
Thank you, Jaya. Without your efforts, it would be a different community. So I appreciate what you've done very much, and thank you for the town of Coventry. Thank you very much.
Mr. Murray?
So strange not to be able to shake hands, isn't it?
I
I'll give you an air five. No, it's a great example of what, just one student can do when they find their voice. And I think you found your voice and you're able to stand up. But I think that's a great example to everyone else. Everyone else, a lot of people look out instead of looking in. And I think once they look in, they can find there's a lot of power in that. And I think you exemplify that. So thanks for your example, and thanks for being part of our district. We're honored. And good luck. Hopefully you get down to D.C.
I'm sure that you're a role model for a lot of children out there. I just think it's wonderful that you, in a world where everyone hides behind social media and, their phones, and you went out there and you said you were going to make a difference. And you were kind when people are not as kind in this world. And you thought, you know what? I know what it's like, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make a difference. And like I said, you're probably a role model for a lot of children. Little girls are looking up to you right now saying, I want to be like her. Congratulations. You did a wonderful job, and I'm really proud that you're part of Coventry.
Congratulations, and thank you for doing what you do. You've learned a valuable skill at such a young age that I have people I've worked with for years and haven't figured it out. You figured out how to get out of your comfort zone, do something different, and what a positive, rewarding experience. Not only can that be for yourself, but it can be for the people around you. So thank you for doing what you do, and I hope you carry that through for the rest of your life. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. And just finally, I have no doubt that you're going to do wonderful, great things for the world. And I think we're all honored that we have such a wonderful role model in our community. So good luck. You might, be able to go on even further in Washington. So hopefully we'll be able to travel by then. But all in all, it's just a wonderful, wonderful honor. And your parents should be so proud of you, as well as all your teachers, and certainly us as part of your community. We're very, very proud of you. So thank you so much for that. So anything from the community? I'm sure there's someone in the midst here that might want to say something. Go ahead.
I just want to say it's really hard to even remember what our school was like before this program. And this program has changed everything about our school. And I don't ever want to imagine our school without this program. It's just it's great to see that after so many years as an administrator in the district of me trying to implement a program and do things and thinking that I could make that change. I couldn't. It needed to be done by students, and it had to be student driven and led and run, and that's where Jaya came into play. She and the friends who had met last year when they presented.
We did.
They just continued their work, and she's continued her work around the state as well. She's been teaming up with schools around the state, working with Special Olympics at the state level. She was working with RIDE as we have her working there. So she is spreading this message too. So this isn't something that's just staying in our district. She's helping other schools as well. And she even came with me, and we saw
Mm. That's great. Thanks, Brooke. Anyone else? Go. Yeah. Woohoo. Anyone else? Aw. Okay.
So much for no
I know. You guys are still young. I'm in the risk group. If also at this time we always let our honorees kind of leave if they want, especially they probably have to go home and do homework or whatever. So if you guys want to leave, you can. So again, thank you so much. We're so proud of you. Thank you, parents. I assume that's your sibling, your brother. Yeah, thanks for being here too. Proud brother. Proud teachers. All right, thanks. Okay, moving on to number 7, which is the discussion and approval of the agreement between the Coventry Teachers Alliance and the school committee. And Mr. Levis, did you want to take that?
I'll start, then I'll turn it over to you. I just, and I'm going to be brief. We knew that we had a challenging year coming up, and we knew that, even if we were to get what we'd like to receive from the town, we still had a significant amount of money to cut. And we came before the school committee many months ago and had a conversation about, would they be willing to let us go or to open the contract. And fast forward, there was a yes. This was not a drawn-out process. I think majority of the work was done over maybe a 2 or 3 week period of time. And I just want to thank, again, this is something that didn't have to happen. You didn't have to agree to. And I always say this, and I'm hoping after, like with the NEAS coming out, educators, I think all of us in Rhode Island, I say this in Rhode Island, I live in Mass, I've worked in different states, and, just sometimes get a bad rap. And, my experience the last few months here and just being, seeing what's going on and how we respond to it has been just amazing. There's, like I would say, it's 98%, maybe, give or take a few percentage of my job, I'm not really fond of. But there's a couple of percentage that I love. And being in the schools and seeing how much people love kids. And so it's my long-winded way of getting that, we both recognize that we had a job to do. I think we both realize, when I say both, committee, the administration, the teachers, we all realize that we truly care about this community and kids, and there was no nonsense. Not everybody got what they want, but I think at the end of the day, I just want to say thank you. I think we have a 3-year contract. When we look at our last contract, both the fiscal impact and the budgetary impact were cut in half from what we did the last contract. There was some changes that made that I think moving forward benefit both parties, and I just wanted to say thank you very much. I think, took a lead. We've heard the town council president come up and say, we're going to be asking all the unions and we're going to expect. Well, I think, I'll be honest, I wasn't sure how it would go, but I was very, again, I think when you have mutual respect and trust, and that's a lot of work. It doesn't just happen, right? I always say, and I say this publicly, Mrs. Aronakis and I probably speak almost on a daily basis, and it's not always, pleasantries, let's say. But it's honest, right? And trust. And I think that's important. We don't always have to agree or like what somebody says, but if you have mutual respect, and I think that's exemplified by the relationship that our entire school community has. So I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I'll just go down the line here. Any questions or concerns for anyone? Either Sarah's here, I know, and Mr. Levis, our lawyer. Mr. Florio?
No question.
No questions. Mr. Murray?
So I think for the community's benefit to understand a little bit about what's going on going into this, because we don't tend to think that they're not seeing what's in front of us. We know that over the past year, and this was a big discussion last year, we're facing budgetary challenges, and we know that, and we've been doing things to correct that. I think both as a school committee and administration. And I also want to thank the union for coming to the table. They could have easily passed this off and just said, it's not our problem. You have to go back in the budget cycle and fight it out with the community. That said, they did come to the table, and I just want the community to understand as we get into budget season that there was some shared sacrifice here, and it's something that we're looking at structurally, and I do trust our administration to move forward with structural changes in after this contract. I do think that there's a commitment to getting to a more sustainable path in future years. Is the contract perfect? Maybe not, but that's an ideal contract because both sides don't win. So I think that I do commend, we had a short amount of time frame to get this done. We challenged the administration to do it and get it done. I think they delivered a pretty good package for the community, especially, that's going to result in some serious fiscal savings, not only now, but over the long term. And I think ultimately we'll be better for it. That said, that doesn't fix everything going forward, and we're going to continue to work on it. So, and that includes myself and the other committee members, I think. So I want to thank the administration. I want to thank the union. I'm going to challenge, I guess, the council as we go forward in work sessions to do their fair share on this, because I think we've done a heavy lift. So thank you.
Mrs. Colonial?
I don't have any questions. Thank you. The teachers always step up, and I think everyone did a wonderful job. Sarah, the superintendent, Don. So thank you, everyone. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Pearson?
Thank you, everyone who came to the table to negotiate this contract. I agree with Mr. Murray and Mr. Levis. I think there's some significant changes in here that help shore up shore us up for the next few years. The only thing I'll add to what's already been said is it's for the public's knowledge. We're talking with the town council about this contract on Monday. It's on the town council agenda for both an executive session discussion, and the council is slated to vote on this Monday night. That's all.
Thank you. My final words is just that I want to thank everybody that, in fact, helped to negotiate this contract. I thank the membership, all the teachers that are making some shared sacrifices in this contract for the betterment of our community. And me personally, I'm extremely, and I think this committee is extremely grateful for that, and that you have managed to bring some savings so that we can hopefully survive next year. So that being said, are we ready to move?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that in the spirit of cooperation, to approve the agreement between the Coventry Teachers Alliance and the school committee as presented / amended.
I second the motion.
And so before I call for a vote, are there any members of the public that would like to make a comment or ask any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations. And again, thank you so much. We will sign our copies here. I'll send them down the line. And again, and we are very grateful. We are very grateful that you were able to come to an agreement. And my hat is off to all of the people that made this happen. So thank you. Moving on to number 8, which is the discussion and the approval of the RCTC automotive bid. I assume that might be Sarah?
So you have in your packet both the RFP and the one bid that we received in response. Just so you know, we did issue this bid twice. The first time we got no bids, so this was the only bid that we received. Mrs. Ferguson did contact all the references stated. She was happy with the response. And also this is funded with external funds not related to the general fund, so Perkins and a donation. So they definitely wanted to move forward because we do need to spend that Perkins money. So.
Are there any questions for Sarah on this? It was in our packet. Any questions? Going once? Going twice? James, you look puzzled. Are you okay? Oh, you're still, we're trying to sign the 3 copies. I can give everybody a chance to finish that. Do you think anybody does have any questions on the RFP? You're good?
No.
Okay, so that being said, is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to award the purchase contract to Sullivan Tire in the amount of $22,536.23.
I second the motion.
Any further questions from the committee? Anything from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you to all who worked on that. Yes, so number 9, we're tabling because of new policies from, yeah, they're canceled as well. Moving on to 10, which is the discussion of the Title IX policy. It's our first reading. That was in our packet, our reference number 5. Mr. Levis, did you want to start the discussion?
I was going to ask Ms. Andrews. Well, I was going to ask Ms. Andrews. She was instrumental. She worked with Attorney Sean Clough on this several times and attended the policy subcommittee.
On this?
And then I'm sure if Mr. Pearson wants to add to it, he can.
So what you have in front of you is the proposed policy that Sean and I worked on. As part of my training to be the district Title IX coordinator, the 3 days that I spent with the national trainers, they did in fact provide us with a model policy that was aligned to the new legislation. So Sean and I took that model policy, cross-referenced it with your existing policies, looking for language cohesion, and developed what you have in front of you. You'll see that this particular policy looks a little bit different than the policies you've had before you in the past, in that it contains a procedure for reporting, an investigation section, and an appeals process that's outlined and listed sanctions. That looks different than most of your other policies that you have approved, but it is in fact in alignment with the requirements under Title IX to cover those particular areas in the policy.
I assume it's going to get one of those special lettered, sort of numbered thing that makes sense, Mr. Pearson?
Yes, it's supposed to have one on it. We'll get that.
Yeah, you know what, I think it
For
was,
the
'cause
next
there was,
reading.
there was, we had put that on, then there was a rewrite,
Okay, so.
there was some.
Yeah, it probably just got lost
Yeah.
in the files.
We have it though.
I
But we
suspect-
do have
We have it.
a code for that.
Did
We can do
you,
it for the second meeting, so.
no problem.
Yeah.
Did you have anything to add, Mr.
I
Pearson,
think,
since you're on the
um,
committee?
I think it's been summed up quite nicely. It's good. I'm glad. I think timing is good to get this done. We could have probably got it done sooner, probably should have got it done sooner, but it's very important to get this policy up to date.
So I thank the fine work of the policy committee, Mrs. Andrews. Any other questions from the committee? Are we ready to move?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to dispense with the first reading of the Title IX policy.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 5-0. And that policy will be up on the website, I assume,
Yes.
for anybody, for the public to ask any questions. Moving on to 11, which is the FY '21 budget update.
So I'm going to actually take that because I think a big step tonight, we had, I think if you look at the budget, we had some kind of placeholders there. And, you know, this is our first step in terms of, you know, what the contract, the relief that the contract is going to allow us in some of that placeholder. So, and for the public knows that we will be having a joint meeting with the town council Monday night. It's going to be at the annex. And we will do a presentation on where we are with our budget moving forward. And I just want to state too that we continue to communicate with the town council and even the town, I mean, with the town manager and the finance director. So I feel that's, you know, despite everything that's going on in the community, we have kept that communication. And so we're, you know, there's no secrets between us. They know exactly where we're at. You know, and we're waiting to see where they come back in terms of the savings they're going to find. But that's where we're at with the budget. Again, this was a big step for us moving forward. So we'll see everybody on the budget Monday night.
Any questions or follow-ups from the committee? Seeing none, anything from the public before we move on? Yep, Kelly?
Yeah, I believe it's on the.
That's what they published on the Secretary of State's website, yeah.
That is going to be voted on.
They published their agenda today at like 4:30.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes,
I
I
didn't
did.
see it. Okay, then I guess we can move on to number 12, the superintendent's report. Mr. Levis.
Nah, I'll figure it out sooner or later.
School safety's first.
Thanks.
COVID.
Kind of missing a beat today. So.
That's okay, we understand.
So we're still working on this, the school safety, be quick, just a stop grant. It's in terms of some safety equipment. I think we can apply for up to $450,000. It's due April 9th. So we'll, once we have more details, we'll share that. We have a gentleman, Mr. John Matson, that's working on all the demographics for us. So I'll keep you posted on that. We have a good bulk of it because Miss Andrews had worked on it, was it last year, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago? Yeah. So we'll keep you posted on that. But that's equipment that we definitely need, and hopefully that will be successful. The second one, and well, I'll jump around here. The NEASC update, and I'm going to, you know, I just wanted to share that, and you've read the article in the paper. It was just a phenomenal I say it was like vindicating because, I don't go on local Facebook, but people love to show me some of the negative comments. And if you were there during that week and seeing the change, just the transformation of the NEAS visiting team, you try to find holes, you try to, verify. If you see somebody says this is going on, you try to verify good or bad. And I know that at the readout, Miss Patno was there, Dr. Dixon was there, and it was just phenomenal. The entire faculty didn't have to be there, were there, and it was just powerful to hear them repeat that our students, and it isn't like they talked to 4 or 5 students, they talked to many, many students, many, many teachers. And the feeling was that kids feel safe in school. Kids know that adults not only care about them, but truly love them. You don't hear that word. It's a word that we kind of shy, but it was loud and clear. It was, focus on culture and the sense of community and everything that JS stands for, Coventry High School stands for. And we always talk about our flagship. And I made a comment, I think I sent an email to the faculty saying, how could anybody, after this experience, how could anybody not want their child to go there? I know if if my child was in high school, I would be so proud for him to be in Coventry High School. To me, that said it all. We don't have the report. We'll probably have it in 4 or 5 weeks, right? But it was just so powerful. And again, I use the word vindicating because when we're in there, we know we have lots of needs. We know our facilities across the board have glaring needs. We know that we have work to do in a lot of different areas, right? But the glass is definitely not half empty, right? The glass is quite full. We have a ways to go. And that whole sense of community, I always say we're in the people business. We invest in our people. And that's what this was all about, right? I mean, people like to see each other. No matter what's going on, the faculty loves to see each other, I walked through, and I said that in my little meeting. Like, I laid off 380 some odd teachers last year. And yet when I went into school the following day, I had several teachers, Joe being one of them, comes up to me and says, "How you doing, Craig? You okay?" I mean, that's unheard of, right? Like, why, I'm sure, in some places they, but seriously,
I
right?
wasn't okay. I will tell you that.
It was but I'm saying that's the culture you guys have. So I know the committee is proud. I hope this community is proud. And I'm so looking forward to when that report comes out, because it's going to be such a celebration. You need those things, right? I always say you get what you need. And it was so powerful. It's just so powerful. And I just want to thank the high school. It was a lot of work, years of work, years of reflection. It's not easy. I don't know about you, but I struggle looking in the mirror every morning. It's not easy to look at yourself sometimes. And you guys did an incredible job. And what you presented was the truth, and they saw that. And this was one of the first the new decennial visit. So this is a huge template, a model exemplar for them. And the way you did the vision of the graduate, because people are struggling with that. But the way, and I know Julie and Macaron and Kristen Capwell, with a lot of support from all the different teams, but they did a phenomenal job. And I just wanted to thank the high school, and we need to be so proud. And when that report comes out, we really need to celebrate that. And I just want to say, thank you for all the work that you've done, and everybody's done, because it wasn't just the Vision of the Graduate, it was pre-K to 12 plus, and you guys drove that, you led that. So thank you very much. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Isn't that a Forrest Gump line?
I was gonna get up and bow, but I figured I wouldn't. But my hat is off to you guys, to all of you. Thank you.
And then I just want to talk a little bit about the COVID-19 situation. These are really trying times, right? And that's an understatement. I was talking to somebody today. These are not like, there's no, I've seen movies, but there's no textbook. We very rarely even talk about this type of situation. You hear about it, it happens other places, right? And I know that everybody's experiencing it. And I always say that, like I always try to keep fairly calm, because I feel when people come to me, they come to you, any of us in leadership roles, you have to be calm. No matter what I'm feeling inside, we need to be calm. And in this whole process, what we've tried to do is balance continuation of education, right? Our kids, our families need that stability that we can provide. We need it from each other, but also taking the necessary steps, precautions. I get bombarded, I'm sure you do, daily with emails, and I try to respond to everybody. I try to just be consistent. We've tried to keep a consistent message because there's so much information out there. The guidance that we've received, and again, it's guidance, so we make our own decisions, but it's been, I want to say that the Department of Health has been great to respond. I have a number that every morning I can text questions. We're on conference calls, but I text a question, I get a response. Our nurses have done an outstanding job, that if a staff person is sick, if students are sick, they've worked with Department of Health. They know what to look for. They know that if somebody was identified, how to isolate them and what to do. And they're doing this daily. People coming where, we're sending students home if they're sick. We're encouraging staff. First we're encouraging them not to come to school. We're encouraging staff, if they're ill, not to come to school. We've been waiving, our attendance policy. We know many doctors, if a parent calls, if staff call and says, hey, this is what's going on, they don't want them to come in, so we understand that. And, there's always people saying, well, people could abuse that. Well, we'll deal with that down the road. Right now, we need to take care of one another. I had shared with Jason Martin had met with a couple of our nurses, and they looked at the information coming from the CDC and Department of Health, and they created guidelines in terms of the difference between cleaning and disinfecting. We've brought in our second shift individuals earlier. We've asked our first shift individuals, and I met with the administrators yesterday to reiterate that fact, to if they want to stay late, to help and assist. We have been consistent in terms of trying to make sure the basics, as they say, making sure, like shaking hands. I don't know about you, but that's been a hard thing to break, going in, and we see that. But I think even in this week especially, people are getting better. I was at the high school today, and people didn't even go, and I didn't even go to shake hands. But, we believe that those basic issues, of shaking hands, of making sure we wash hands, that we have sanitizer available. We'd spent thousands of dollars to make sure that we have supplies, and it's coming in. Things are still trickling in. I've asked principals to make sure they notify us if there's needs. And we're constantly reflecting on this, if we need to do additional response. Today I had, and I've tried to communicate, and like I said, people need to know, if you don't know, but the Rhode Island Department of Health, they actually have, I believe there's several CDC individuals here, and we're fortunate because in the small state of Rhode Island, they have stated several times, including yesterday on a conference call I was on, and they also stated, the governor stated, there is no plan right now to widespread closing of schools. And just so you know, the process is, if we were to have an issue, identify an issue, whether it's somebody said that they were next to somebody that was identified, whatever the relationship is, we contacted the Department of Health and work with them. So when you look at the school closings that have taken place in Rhode Island, each one of those had a specific reason. And the Department of Health had worked, those individuals, those leaders had contacted the Department of Health, and they determined the course of action together. So each one of the school closings, you can identify. There was the one in East Greenwich for a day. There was, St. Ray's, obviously we all know. And then there was the Smithfield preschool in Pawtucket. And so there was a collaborative process, and the determination was made. I communicate with Mr. Anderson on a regular basis and review what I'm going to be sending out for feedback. Want to make sure that we give the right message. There is no crystal ball here, but we're flexible. Like I said, we're in contact with the Department of Health, and we're making decisions daily. And my promise to the community and our community is our staff, our students, our families, the school committee, is to keep you informed in terms of the decisions. I sent out an email today, and so in addition to the what we've put in place in terms of keeping clean and what we put forward today was that I restricted all field trips and extended trips until I looked at April 5th, and I took like a 3-week period of time, and the governor had requested 2, but I feel that, let's be more cautious. And all that means is we'll reassess our situation. Maybe something happens when we reassess it sooner, but I wanted people to know. I think people need to know there's an end game here, at least when we'll look. I also talked about, events that we have, school-sponsored events. We're going to look at, reduce any, eliminate the large events, but then look at, on an individual basis, smaller events. But if we're going to have guests coming into the building, we need to look at that differently. People talk a lot about schools, but I feel that, why aren't schools closing? Colleges are closing. And I am not a doctor, so I do not comment on that. But what we've been what's been discussed with us in terms of our conference calls with the Department of Health is, colleges are a completely different entity than high schools, elementary, K-12 schools are. And there's a lot of variables that are taking place. And even amongst the colleges, you see a wide response. Harvard, Boston College, Tufts, they've shut down for the year. And they have their reasons and justification. My son goes to UMass Amherst. They've closed down right now till April 3rd. So they have spring break starting tomorrow. They're off for a couple of weeks, and they're going to reassess. So even amongst them. But what's clear in Rhode Island is that we feel that we have a pretty controlled environment. Now, you can say we have 1,500 kids at the high school, 1,100 kids, and one of our elementary schools has 600, and then we have approximately 300 and something in our others. But we have control of who comes in and comes out. If we see anything that's suspicious in terms of colds, like we have parents today, I had contact with a nurse, kids come in, they're ill, and maybe in the past we'd kind of monitor them, but now we want them to go home, right? Parents are sometimes even refusing to pick them up, right? The challenges we're facing, we're trying to keep everybody healthy. We can control our environment to some degree. But then the other side is, and it goes back to Jaya, every student, right? Every family. We have students that they need school. They need the meals. They need the warmth. They need the attention, right? We have to understand we're a community of everybody. And that, what about families? My feeling is if schools were to close, and if they do, it's going to be an incredible burden on this community. You're going to have some students whose parents have to work no matter what, and they'll be alone. You have some children that are going to go home to nobody and minimal food. Then we have the parents that, they have to work, like whether or not they can get 5 days of unemployment, that's great. But what about the 10 days? What about if it goes on? So again, trying to balance caution. If at any moment something arises where we need to make a different decision, we will. And we'll inform you. We are working, as every district is working on, a virtual learning plan. The commissioner today sent out a detailed letter that I've shared with administration. I've shared with, I say detailed, sent out a letter and then a document. Not a single district in the state, mind you, and it's been in place for 2 years, has a virtual learning plan that's been approved. But now we're all going to send one by next Thursday and for feedback and guidance. But we've been working on it. In fairness, I've worked with the administration, I've worked with the union to have ideas. We will have a plan that we will share with you. We'll share with the community. We'll submit it before. But let me state, there is no way, I believe, my disclaimer, to have a virtual learning plan that is equitable. The students that have access to internet versus the ones that don't. And we're exploring different ways to provide that, but I don't know, let's be honest, students with significant disabilities. I've asked Mr. Wilson, our special ed director, to reach out to special educators and look at ways we can accommodate and provide some supports. But there's nothing that's going to replace the services that can be provided by a special educator or by a therapist. Even the children that have nurses, there's no guarantees that with what's going on, they'll have the one-to-one priority nurses with them at home. And there's so many things that can go on, you know, in terms of access. Students with learning, English language learners, students that come from socioeconomically disadvantaged families, those children that could have incredible parents, but they're both going to have to work. They won't get that support at home that maybe another child will. So we're going to submit a plan, and we will have a plan for the community. But I want to be clear that in terms of nothing's going to replace having a teacher in front of them. A lot of universities are saying, oh, we're going to go online. But I know like Bryant University doesn't have online courses. The teachers use that medium, where like MIT is, has every course they have, you can get free online. So so those are things that we're looking at. We're also in the process of, we have outside groups that use our buildings, and over the next couple of days, I'll be reaching out to them, and we'll be, suspending those activities for the next few weeks. And that's primarily so we can clean and disinfect. We clean an area, people are in, and we don't always control where they can go, so we don't know if there's contamination. These are not always individuals that are from our schools. And so, I shared that, my memo with Mr. Anderson, because I want to make sure that there's nothing I'm doing that's illegal. I'm not violating anybody's rights. So we'll be eliminating that for the next 3 weeks at least. Again, trying to control where people go. We'll have no gatherings over 250 individuals outside. I will not be sending individuals to, we're going to have a couple of students that we're going to go to New York to race. And it's only a couple of students, and it was going to be a weekend trip. Then it was going to be just a day trip. But there's 1,000 individuals in this indoor, so I couldn't support them, but it was canceled. But as of yesterday, I don't believe, or maybe 2 days ago, it wasn't canceled. So we're going to deal with the interscholastic league on a game-by-game basis. My frustration as superintendent is I would like sometimes a league, one of these organizations, just to make a tough decision. When we decided last year with the Triple E, right? And I was getting calls from superintendents, or athletic directors were calling, and superintendents, because, homecoming's Friday night, and it's really our big night, and I would not let the players play in the dusk. Like you'd look on the Department of Health website, and this community was a high risk, and we took some full flack for that, but we did the right thing. So we're going to continue to do the right thing through this process. We're going to respond to the information that we receive, and we will continue to communicate. Like right now, we expect students that are healthy. We expect them to be in school. We also we're also reaching out to our school nurses, again, special education, our principals. We want to identify those students who have compromised health systems or medically fragile. We want to make sure that we're in communication, or they're in communication with their doctor. We want to take care of them. And if school's not the place for them to be, we want to make sure we support them. And I know we also have conversations, around our staff. We want to make sure that we respond to our staff also and their needs. And I know, Ms. Aronakis has been doing that, fielding and assisting. And I know we want to make sure that we take care of our people. This is a time to pull together and I try to keep the balance. Again, continuation of our educational process, supporting our community, but also making sure that we're being prudent. And, I don't want to overreact. And I know that sometimes I've had some emails from people, and, they feel that, we're not doing enough right now. But again, we're willing, we continue to listen to the information, and I need the community and the committee to know we're in contact daily. And if things change, we will respond daily. So I've went on long enough. I know if there's questions from the committee or questions from the community or comments.
Did you want to talk about school construction update?
Well, I didn't know if any.
On this
yes, I don't want to,
issue.
because I know it's a heavy topic, and
Okay, are there any questions on this particular topic before we move on with the rest of his report?
I had a question, but he
Okay.
answered it. He covered
Oh,
it. So
okay.
we're good.
Yeah.
It's the best kind of question, Mr.
Yeah.
Pearson.
Mr. Florio? You're good?
Madam Chair, I've been speaking to the superintendent about this
Yeah.
almost daily, and he's staying the course and he's doing the right thing.
Mrs. Colunian? Oh, she's not there. Oh, I was trying to figure out if you were blocking her. All right. We've got a ghost. I'm sorry, do you have a question? Okay. So, moving on
yeah.
to, before I forget, on this particular topic, I would really, really like to thank our IT director, for streaming these meetings, because if we didn't have this availability, and I want to thank the town council and our taxpayers for paying for this system so that we can have people watching and being here. Especially, I had someone at work just say to me the other day, well, what are you going to do, for your meetings? And I said, well, luckily we do have a new system. We have changed our venue. We have, actually done something positive for other people to be able to see and not have to come to this meeting. So I want to thank your faithful service every single time when we have this meeting, making sure that it gets done, and very glad that we're able to have that and give that to the public.
It was a terrific amendment during a financial town meeting.
It certainly was.
Yes, it
and
was.
I certainly supported it at that time as well.
Madam Chair, I just have one question. Monday night, we are meeting at the annex, from what I believe. Is that correct, Mr. Levis?
Yeah, the auditorium.
What happens if there's more than 250 people there?
Oh, why would there be? Wow.
I
do you mean
I
say
don't know, but
I don't know what the
I'm not
capacity
worried.
is. I don't know what the capacity
I don't
is.
foresee that we'll have 200, but I don't know.
So surprised.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
But it's not a public hearing, it's just a budget update, so. I think we might be meeting there because maybe this isn't available, I don't know. Yeah, so I think that's the only reason we moved. It's not
And-
like it's a public hearing.
Will it be televised also?
I assume they will do
They
that. They
will.
usually
They
move stuff
usually
over
do,
there, so.
yeah. Okay,
So,
Anything
so,
from-
so that's an important note. So
Yeah.
you can stay home and watch.
exactly.
You don't have to come
You don't have to come.
if it's streamed.
Yes, exactly. And before we move on, was there a comment from the public or a question for Mr. Levis? Yeah. 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 Yes. I know. Yes, exactly. Mhm. Yes, I agree. Yeah. I did see yeah. I did see from the commissioner today that one of those itemized bullets was look at your policies for attendance. And I think that has been what's come out of RIDE, that, I agree. And I can't even imagine that they could. Yes, I will definitely keep that on my radar. All right.
So I just want to, necessity for school construction. I know Mr. Murray, the building committee chair, just sent out an email, so I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about
Sure.
next steps are.
And I don't know, if, just going to that point, maybe that's something we should talk about. I mean, I don't know if that's worthy of a resolution going to RIDE about
we could.
requesting. So maybe that's something we get on the radar for next meeting and
Sure.
look at drafting something along that. That way it kind of keeps our feet to the fire on that. Yeah, so necessity of school construction update. So in amongst all the other things that the administration is doing, including rollout of a financial software and building of a financial software, getting through the computer scenario this year, NEASC, and budget season, we have this big building effort. So stage one went in. It got initial positive feedback from RIDE, from what we hear. I had the opportunity to sit down with Mr. Levis and the project architect, whose scope is now ended for stage one. But we are looking forward to stage two, and we're looking at negotiating a new contract potentially with that vendor, it makes sense to move forward with consistency. I'm excited about this process because I sent out an email today. We've had a little bit of a lull because of everything going on, and stage 1 is in, and we kind of took a pause. But I'm looking to reamp the process. It's going to be a little different process. The first stage 1 was very top-down driven, and it needed to be because it was more of an assessment of the facilities. What do we have? What do we need? We're going to have our first kickoff meeting where it's going to start being really building committee driven. So the building committee will build the schedule. The building committee will drive the process. And that means that there's going to be a lot of discussion and creative thinking on how we move forward as a community. Because we all know we have a lot of needs. And what do we address over the next 5 years, over the next 10 to 15, because it's not going to happen right away. And that's a larger community discussion. One of the other things that we're going to be talking about is communication strategy to ensure, and again, it's not a marketing effort. I think it's sold itself. I think it's an education effort. We need to get out to the community and explain all of the things that we need and all of the things that why we should invest in our schools now. Why now? And I think there's a lot of reasons why now, and I think that'll be expressed to the community in the months ahead. But I'm excited about the effort. I think it's going to be a grassroots. Anyone looking to get involved, while we do have a building committee set, that doesn't mean that we're going to shut out community support and questions. So if anybody wants to be involved in the process, who's either watching or in the crowd, I urge you to either reach out to myself or the administration. And I think it's going to be good. I think, we have a lot of challenges, as we always do, but I think that it's going to be a good effort moving forward. And just so everyone knows, stage 2 is due in September. So whatever package that we get together for RIDE has to go in order to be approved for the approval of the housing aid that we would prospectively get. So, and that means significant reimbursements from the state that offsets the town's investment. So we need to get that in. We need to be on time. But we need to have a thorough package, and that's well thought out. But we have a great building committee with a couple members who are specifically in the building arena, including Gilbane and Shawmut, I believe. So among others. So I think it's great.
Any questions for Mr. Murray on that? Seeing,
I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, are we ready to move on to citizens' comments? Are there any comments from the citizens gathered? Yep.
Just one thing to bring back about the NEAS visit.
Yep.
They did let us know one area we're not going to need it, and that's building facilities.
Yeah, I know.
And if everybody remember the last time this happened?
I do.
Our roof was in pretty bad disrepair at the high school,
Mm-hmm.
and we've gotten the standard, and we've built the standard on item. We're in danger of losing their reputation, so I think, we tried to let them know everything that everybody's working on the code construction and what committees are doing. They said they will absolutely talk about that in the report. But when push comes to shove, our learning environment's not 21st century. He said our science not 2040s. The infrastructure, the HVAC. So I just think that's a piece that your building committee needs to know as well, that unfortunately, as hard as we try, we couldn't sugarcoat what they saw. We couldn't sugarcoat what they felt when they went to
and I appreciate that. I know that came up. So just so everyone knows, and I think community would benefit from this perspective, because me being fairly new to the school committee, you talk about NEASC and what does it mean, and most people just worry about the label of the accreditation. But it's a real process. It involves real members from other school districts who come in and evaluate you, which is very intimidating, especially when you show up as a school committee member on a Sunday night and they're asking you very grassroots, in the weeds questions about what the problems are and challenges of our school district are. And I had the opportunity to weigh in on that, but when they asked me about buildings and what's your effort, let's be honest, we as a community need to come together around that. We need to come together on education, and we need to come together on our facilities. And I was very honest, brutally honest on that, is that we haven't made that commitment of effort into our facilities. We're working on it, and I think we're moving in the right direction. But you're absolutely right. I mean, we all know that there's a problem with our facilities. That doesn't mean that our learning environments are not, how do I say this, that our teachers aren't teaching and that our kids aren't learning. But it means that how are we comparing to other communities, and what's that say about our values? I think that does say a lot about our values if we're we're substandard in that category. So I actually appreciate that NEAS recognizes that and it identifies it. And I know you, the look on your face, but it keeps our feet to the fire, right? That is their job. If they didn't provide a deficiency on that, then they wouldn't be doing their job. We own that as a community. And so either we do own it and we accept it and we figure out how to address it, or we ignore it and we just kick the can down the road even more. And I think if we're truly invested in all this time and energy, and I do commend the administration for all the time they put in it, all the time we invested, years of effort in this accreditation visit, what does it say if we just ignore the recommendations? So that is part of it, communication moving forward, is saying to the community that it's not just us saying this. You know, if you don't trust us, if you don't believe everyone else, this outside organization who came in also identified this. So I think that says a lot. And where are your values when somebody comes in and tells you something? Are you going to fix it or are you going to kick the can? So I'm hoping that this community will not kick the can, that we'll finally start to move in the right direction with the buildings and facilities. So I appreciate the comment. I hear you loud and clear, and the building committee is well aware of it, or will be well aware of it when we speak next time we meet.
Okay, thank you. So were there any other citizens' comments? Seeing none, are we ready to schedule our next meeting?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that the next meeting of the school committee be scheduled for Thursday, March 26, 2020 at 7 p.m. at Coventry Town Hall.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, it's at the end,
It's at,
sorry.
it's at the annex. I'm sorry. Let me make,
26?
No, not the one, no, it's the 326. Yeah, no, so it is right. Yeah, we're not even scheduling that one, we were already done. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so it is 326.
It is 326 at Town
Yeah.
Hall
Okay.
at 7 p.m.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair Boyd. Chair Boyd.
Mr. Levis.
Motion carries 5-0, and is there a motion to adjourn? I
Yep.
have, it looks like 8:11.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to adjourn at 8:11 p.m.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 5-0. It is.